Hey, everybody, and welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. This is Katie Weaver, and I'm here with my co-host and partner in crime, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey, everybody. Excited to be here. It's a new week with a new joint case.
Yeah,
I'm super excited.
me too. I'm way
These
excited
cases
for
are
this case.
fun.
Yes. Yeah.
As fun as murder can be. But,
Well,
sometimes I say stuff like that and I'm like, I hope people don't take that the wrong way.
yeah, but when you're a true crime person, and this case is, you guys are you'll dig it.
Mhm.
Kristi, you're gonna really dig it. But how's it going before we get started? You're well?
I am well. I am very well. Yeah. Had a nice little road trip over the weekend. You guys may have caught my pop-ups on my phone, tiny, narrow little videos, but they were pretty fun. I was talking about some female serial killers. That was fun. It was nice to get out of town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, very
But
good.
it's always nice to come home too. That's a kind of like traveling. That's my favorite part of traveling is coming home.
Right? I
Then you're
hear
like,
that.
you actually really like my house better. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. My bed. My bed's definitely a step up.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude. Hotel beds, man. Oh,
Yeah.
bad.
Well, I hear you because actually the case today was born from my weekend adventures. So
Mm-hmm.
we went to Montana this weekend and we went through uh, West Yellowstone, which is
Mm-hmm.
a little teeny town at the west entrance of Yellowstone Park. It's
Yeah.
the one closest to us. And when we came through town and headed up, into Montana, you're kind of
Mm-hmm.
like you're right on the edge of the park for a little while.
Yeah.
And there was a big herd of bison, like just milling about the road. And I cannot
As
believe I
they
didn't get a picture for you guys. It was, I mean, I've seen them a lot of times, but you might not have. And it was really, and they were like, don't roll down your window. It's close enough to touch, kind of close to the car,
mm-hmm.
And they were just chilling. That was kind of fun. But
That's awesome.
yeah, but we've got a little further up the road, and I noticed something. I saw, this, the Fir Ridge Cemetery.
Oh man.
Yeah, about, I don't know, 5 miles outside of West. And I went, well, I have to explore. So we didn't have time to stop. It was getting dark. And so I just figured we'd stop on our way home. And I did some research all along the road. I spent 16 hours in the car. And
Oh,
so brutal. So I
yikes.
had lots of time for research.
Right.
So I discovered this case, which I don't remember hearing about this case. My husband says he does. And so,
Does he?
Kristi, maybe it'll sound more familiar to you. It did not to me,
It
but
didn't to me either. When I read over it, I went, "Wow,
yeah.
I'm surprised we didn't hear," because our news crosses over with Montana and Wyoming a lot, and
Oh,
so we
yeah.
do hear things, and that's just barely Montana anyway.
Right. Yeah. That's like the West Yellowstone is just sitting directly on the border of Idaho and Montana.
Yeah.
So on our way home, we stopped and did a little exploring. This cemetery is literally in the quaking aspens. Let's see. Oh, of course. Where are my pictures?
I don't know. Yeah, that was a lot of them,
Directly
though.
in the quakies.
Oh, pretty.
And like literally, there's just little like headstones every so often
Just out in the trees.
out in the trees. And we couldn't
Wow.
see them very well because there's still quite a bit of snow up there, as you can
Yeah.
probably see. And so we couldn't see a lot. I did try to close up a little bit so that you could at least see, like you could see some flowers and like grave decorations sticking out of the
Oh, wow, out
the
of the
snow
snow.
here and there. Yeah. But that's about it. And so I definitely have to go back up there when the snow melts. But
Right?
you couldn't really see anything more than that. And we didn't dare go very deep into the cemetery. You had to walk in, they had it blocked off. And there was a grizzly bear attack up there, like 3 miles from this place. And so
Yeah. They're
we were
waking
going
up.
very deep. Though that grizz actually, unfortunately, was shot and killed. But
I hate it when
yeah,
that happens. I
This was
hate
a
it because
hell of a story. Did you hear
yeah,
about it?
I did, and
So,
I hate it when, people encroach upon their territory, and
yeah,
then when they kill somebody, then we have to kill them. I don't know.
right. Well, this is, and it probably is how it would have gone down anyway, but in this case, there was a campground just a few miles from where I was at this site
Yeah.
that a local, it wasn't even a tourist, and usually it's a tourist, it was a local in that campground. He was mauled by a male grizz. And the next day, the game and fish brought in and some, professionals from Yellowstone all
Mhm.
met there, a group of 9 people, to assess the area and see if they could figure out why this attack happened and which bear did it.
Yeah.
And while they're assessing it, they get charged by a grizzly bear.
Oh my gosh, I did not hear
And
this part.
yeah, and so they tried to scare it away. They had bear spray, they had sound and noise, and they did the things that in their professional, experience would have scared a bear away, and it
Yeah.
didn't. He just kept coming,
Ooh,
and they
something's
ended up
wrong.
having to shoot him, and he dropped and died only like 20 feet from them. It wasn't very far. Like he nearly ran right through that pack of people.
Wow.
And after they dropped him, they discovered that they were standing in between him and a cached elk. So a cache means
Oh,
that they have dug a shallow hole and
yeah.
and put food in it that they're coming back to. So both times, probably the local that he mauled, who lived but is quite injured, and the biologists and game and fish officers were standing in between him and his food, and that's what
Yikes.
happened.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, because that surprises me that he wouldn't just that the bear spray and the sound and stuff wouldn't make him run off, like, some
Right? Nope. Apparently
caged
not.
elk. Oh,
Our
damn.
dad and his brothers they used to camp not too far from there in antelope
Mhm.
hunt in the fall.
Yeah.
And that one year they had shot some of their antelopes, but not all of them.
Mhm.
And they got up one morning and one of their antelopes was gone.
Yep.
And they found it not very far from camp and it had been cached.
Yep.
So a bear stole it from their camp in the night and cached it into the ground. So they started hanging them from the trees after that. But anyway, it happens. They're up
Mm.
there.
Oh,
And you're
yeah.
right. This is a dangerous time because
They're waking up.
they're waking up and they're hungry. So
Yeah.
anyway, so we didn't walk very far in because, grizzly bears
Right.
don't run fast, the
Yeah.
things. But, so this is the cemetery that I was exploring. So I found a murder from West Yellowstone from 1990 that has a very interesting story behind it and a story that deserves to be told.
Sure.
So this is the cemetery. I did want to show you the headstone. We weren't really able to see it this time, but maybe we'll go back. But this is Bradford Clare Brisbin, or Brad. He went by Brad Brisbin.
Mhm.
So Brad Brisbin was a business owner. He and his wife Renee owned a business in West Yellowstone.
Mhm.
And he also was a school teacher. He was a high school teacher
Right.
and a coach. So this is
Mhm.
Brad right here. He was a high school coach, coached the boys basketball team.
Yeah.
Well, he was good friends with another guy in town named Larry Moore. And Larry Moore's wife, Shelly, was the coach of the girls' basketball team.
Right.
So these two couples were good friends. So
Right.
this is Larry. So you have these two couples that are great friends.
I wonder if we're
And
related to Larry.
I know Moore is one of our, yeah,
Mhm. Very well could be.
ancestral names. I wondered about that too when I saw that name.
Yeah.
A little yikes there.
Mhm.
So Brad was just teaching school one day, and Larry called him at school, said that he had an emergency, that he was about 90 miles away, and that he couldn't get home. He said he'd been hunting, he had his truck, he had his camper, and that he couldn't get home and he needed some help. And he actually ended up getting a substitute for the rest of the day and went to his friend's aid,
Yeah.
which, by all accounts, what everybody from West said at the time is that Brad was the nicest guy, that he would do
Right.
anything for you, that he and his wife Renee were just wonderful people. And
'Cause
He
that's a
was just
big
for
ask,
love.
like, in the middle of your workday, you're teaching, you're just
Mhm.
gonna walk out in the middle of the day and drive 90 miles to get your friend? I mean, that's
And
yeah.
that is a big ask, and these guys, they were hunting buddies, and good friends, and anyway, so he did that. So he drove those 90 miles to get him, and he never came home,
Yeah,
which was 100% unlike him. Like, this is not in a million years something that he would do.
sure.
And so, of course, there was big concern, on the part of his wife and his kids. He had two teenage children, and, Brad doesn't come home. So they call the police, and the police go and they talk to Larry because he's, we think, the last person to see him.
Mhm.
So Larry tells them that he was, when Brad got to him, that he was inebriated and really depressed, and said that he just was sick of this life and sick of his wife and didn't want to be a teacher anymore and didn't want to have a restaurant anymore, and asked Larry if he could borrow some money, and got into a red sports car with a blonde woman with Washington plates and took off. And he's never heard from him again.
What?
Yeah.
So he
This
gets in
is,
his car to drive 90 miles to help his friend so that he can then run off with a woman?
yeah, this is the story he tells. And his
Whatever.
wife is flabbergasted because this isn't at all like her husband.
Right.
And it just doesn't make sense.
Well, and none of it fits, like, so you
No,
quickly this is the '90s, you don't have a cell phone, so you
right.
call someone on the landline phone and say, "I've gotta drive
Hmm.
90 miles to help my friend, will you come pick me up? I'm gonna run away from my wife."
Yeah,
Like, come on.
yeah, yeah. It just, none of it made sense. And so the
No.
police they search and search and search. I mean, there's quite the manhunt for him. Because, I mean, do understand, I mean, this is very near the wilderness. Bad things do happen to people in nature in this area more often than
Oh,
people do bad things to people.
yeah. Mhm.
So, but Brad's car was in the parking lot of that. It was like I think it was like a diner, rest service area kind of place. Anyway,
Mhm.
his car was abandoned in that parking lot, but there were absolutely no signs of foul play.
So wait, I
So,
have a question.
yeah,
How did Larry get home? If Larry was stranded and Brad came to get Larry,
yeah,
now
good
Brad's
question.
gone, how the hell did Larry get his truck and camper home?
I'm a guessing he drove them home. Probably miraculously, his truck started.
That's what I'm wondering, 'cause I none of this story makes no sense at all
No.
because the beginning of this story was Larry was stranded and couldn't get home.
Hmm. Yep.
Hmm.
So from the get go, Shelley tells people that she's worried that that Larry may have done something to Brad. Because
Oh, wow.
as it happens, they had separated 2 days before.
Oh.
And Shelley was a victim of domestic violence.
Mhm.
And apparently, Larry had accused her of having an affair with Brad.
That's right. There were things said about because they were sort
Hmm.
of both coaches and hung out at the school together and stuff that there was
Hmm.
some ideas that maybe they had an affair.
But she totally denies. His
Yeah.
wife totally denies.
Mhm.
Everyone is like, that's just not even true. She indicates that Larry had gotten more and more paranoid over the last few weeks and gotten more violent and gotten more weird, and
Mhm.
to the point that she wanted to be done with him.
Yeah.
And it sounds like maybe Brad and Renee were kind of trying to help her. And
Wow.
so, at
Okay.
any rate, now she's worried. And of course, understand the town of West Yellowstone has about somewhere between 800 and 1,000 people, depending on the year we're talking about, but about 1,000 people. This is
Yeah.
a tiny town. Everybody is all up in everyone else's business.
Sure.
So now, of course, everyone's, there's rumors floating around that Shelley was having an affair with Brad, and there's rumors, that he ran off with another woman. So his poor wife and kids are just really going through the ringer in every way you can think of. And so is
Yeah.
poor Shelley, who didn't do a damn thing wrong.
Right.
And then we have Larry that's just kind of playing it cool ish, right? So the police, I think, kind of are thinking Larry immediately, but they
Mhm.
don't really have any evidence. And so they ask him if they can search his truck, and he agrees. So they search his truck, and it is completely immaculate. So then they search his camper, and they discover that the camper has some bullet holes in the floor and in the kind of like in the side by the door and in the liner underneath it that he's been patching with some putty. And they ask him about it, and
Mhm.
he says, "Oh yeah, I was hunting once, and I was trying to shoot a mouse." A mouse.
What?
Because everybody blows holes all over their camper with a handgun, because they saw a mouse.
Oh my gosh.
But they also
Why would you do that?
find,
That's insane.
mhm,
Nobody does that for real. You're not gonna destroy your camper for that.
no. But one of the investigators sees something on one of the curtains that looks really weird. He describes it as about the size of a quarter, and it looks kind of like chicken fat.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry.
not good.
And
'Cause you
so
know what?
he
Our fat looks like chicken fat. Human fat
mhm,
looks like chicken fat. It's yellow.
looked like tissue of some sort. So he
Mhm.
takes the whole curtain and they send that off to a lab. And in the meantime, Larry's just, basically telling tales. Well, so they're still investigating, and a letter from Brad arrives at police headquarters. And it says he's alive and well and living in Washington State, and it's postmarked from Washington State.
What
But
the hell?
it's just kind of weird. The police are still like, what in the world? So it just doesn't
Well, and
really
out of
make,
curiosity, why
yeah.
would Brad send a letter to the police? Wouldn't he
Be,
send that letter to his wife?
he's indicating that he understands that there's a manhunt for him and he wants to let them know, you can stop looking. I'm fine. Yeah.
Wow, that's Larry's getting pretty creative, isn't he?
I just didn't want this life anymore. So bye bye. Stop looking for me. Yeah. And it is postmarked from Washington. So then, of course, they do search the camper. They also find a fragment from a 357 mag pistol.
Mm.
And that's where the story of shooting the mouse,
Oh, of the
it
bullet, like the
is
bullet
cooked
fragment?
up. Yeah. Yeah. So they have a test done. The tissue from the curtain goes to the Missoula State Crime Lab. And they do a test that identifies the tissue as human, and the striations meant it was muscle.
Mm,
They still don't know who it belongs to, but they also don't think it's enough evidence for them to move because a bit of muscle in, someone's camper doesn't mean they're dead. I mean, you could
true.
essentially shed some muscle somewhere in theory, but how the hell, right? I don't even want to think about how that happens. But
Just
anyway, they still
leave a
don't think
piece
they
of muscle
really,
lying around?
yeah, they don't
I'm
really think they
pretty
have
sure
enough.
no.
So in the meantime, while they are at the same time that they get this back, and they're going to question Larry more about why he has human muscle hanging off the curtain of his camper,
Ugh.
another letter comes. This time from Spokane, from Brad. And he apologizes for creating a strain on everyone involved. And again, it's like, guys, I'm good. I just needed to get away from my life. So just quit looking for me. Yeah. So a few days later, Larry shows up at the police department and says, "Hey, I got a letter from Brad." And in this letter, Brad asks Larry to make sure that his wife, Renee, is taken care of. There's a little problem with the letter, however. Brad, Brad spells his wife's name wrong.
Of course he did, as I'm sure he did many times throughout their
Right.
long
Her
marriage.
name
What?
is Renee, but it's Rene. So I'm guessing that Brad added an extra E to that. But at
Mhm, or an
any
A.
rate, hmm or yeah, perhaps. Yes. So that is a
Ah, Brad.
clue.
Ah, Brad can't even spell his own wife's name. What the
Yeah.
hell? That is definitely that's a clue.
And there's some other things in the letter too that are big red flags. So now they're like, all right, what the hell is happening here? So they test the letters with nihydrin to
Mhm.
see if they can get some fingerprints. Uh, and they find lots of fingerprints on the letters, but none of them match Brad. They also don't match Larry. So they're still not sure what the heck is going on.
Mhm.
But then they have a forensic document examiner examine both letters. And they do discover that both letters were written by the same typewriter.
Mm.
Typewriter, guys.
Oh, they're typed. Oh, I was hoping there was gonna be, like, handwriting analysis
Oh,
here.
well, hold on.
Oh,
It only the signature was handwritten.
okay.
So they take a greeting card that Brad had recently signed and they compare it to the signature. They're not even close. Like,
Of course,
not at all.
Larry hadn't bothered to practice Brad's, handwriting before this, apparently.
Not really. And you know how I don't know how you guys sign your name or write, but you know, those of us, we were when we were kids, we were taught to write cursive, right? And I
Right.
have a bad habit of writing in kind of like print/cursive.
Me too, yeah.
Well, that's how Brad wrote too. And so his signature is partly printed, partly cursive. Well, that's not at all what the signature on the letters looked like. So again, they're like, Brad did not write these. We just really don't think that he did.
Larry, you have screwed up, dude.
You just had to go spell Renee's name wrong, dummy. Yeah,
It's so awesome.
yeah,
I wish he'd spelled Brad wrong, because that would have just been smoking gun.
yeah. Well, what the analyzer said was, this is not a signature, it's the drawing of a signature. Thought that
Oh.
was very interesting. So they didn't know who wrote the letters or signed them, but they did know it wasn't Brad. But you guys, this effort was writing letters and sending them back home to try to, back up that theory that he had ran away from his family. I mean, my God.
What an ass.
Yeah, he is something. Anyway, so again, they still have no idea where Brad is. So they search the camper again. One thing they discover is that the camper has been wiped down with battery acid inside.
Oh my god.
That's what he used. Yeah.
Wow.
But when they search again, they discover something on the stair of the camper. So if you guys are familiar with camp trailers, the stairs are usually metal and they have holes in them,
Mhm.
so water can drain so you don't slip and die on them. And then they might have
Some grip or something.
some grip or something like that on them. Well, somebody notices that kind of on the side of one of those holes, there's some matter on that, and they're
Oh,
not
no.
sure what it
More
is.
tissue?
So they
Like,
scrape that up.
dang. Poor Brad.
Yeah. And they send that off to the lab. And scientists they say it's not blood. They thought it was blood. It's not blood. It's tissue. Human tissue, of course. So they send it off to a guy
Did
named
he
Mark,
shoot him with a bazooka? Like,
right? So they send him off to a guy named to a neuropathologist in Ohio named Mark Cullen. He takes a look at it and he tells them, you're correct, it is human. I mean, you got to understand, we're talking about little tiny towns and little tiny labs. Like, they don't know what the hell they're seeing here
well, and
at
this is
all.
1990, and this was a
1990, this
while
is
ago.
very early DNA studies, very
Mhm.
early. So he says, well, guys, it's human and it is brainstem tissue.
Well, shit.
So this is worse than losing some muscle on a curtain.
Yeah.
But now someone's lost their brainstem on the steps. And that is, I hate to use this term, but the smoking gun, you
Yeah.
know. So then they bring in, this was, by the way, an extremely expensive investigation, like one of the
Mhm.
most expensive investigations Montana has ever done
I'll
for the
bet.
time, especially.
For all those forensics.
So
Mm.
they bring in a ballistics expert that takes a look of where the brain tissue was, where the other tissue was, and where all of the bullet holes are. And using a 2-point laser, he marks out the path of the bullets to basically be able to show you how it happened, where the victim would have been, where the shooter would have been standing. And essentially, the victim would have been laying on the ground, like knocked down, in the camper with their head towards the door, and the shooter would have been standing over them.
Oh, that's why the holes were in the floor. Got
Mhm.
it. Okay.
They weren't sure if he was on his front or his back. That was inconclusive. But at any rate, this would have been someone standing over him that's shot many times. So that's basically what their prosecution claimed. So of course they do finally arrest Larry. And
Mhm.
when they do, they're still waiting, but they have sent the DNA testing, the sample from the brain tissue for DNA testing. Of course, they don't have a Brad to compare it to, but and now this is impressive for 1990. They take DNA from both of Brad's kids
Mhm.
and from Brad's wife and from Brad's mother, so that they can separate the DNA in Brad's kids to what is from mom and what is
Mhm.
from dad. And then
Sure.
they match up what is from dad to dad's mom so that they can be conclusive that this is Brad's DNA.
Yeah.
And they are able to confirm that, yes, the DNA absolutely belongs to Brad.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yes. So, I mean, it gets all very scientific, but that's basically what happened. So they do
Mhm.
finally rule it a homicide,
Okay.
and then Larry is arrested and charged with murder.
Okay.
So, historically in Montana, there has never been a case of murder that has been successfully prosecuted without a body. This would be the
Mm.
first time if they are successful.
Mhm.
And so they go to trial. And they bring all this science with them and all of the lies and all of the letters and all of the bullshit. They pull it all in
Mhm.
and they try Larry. And, it's again, they've never done this without a body before.
Right.
And yet, there's some other things about Brad or about Larry you have to know. Larry owned an excavation company. And so he
Mhm.
had all kinds of equipment, like
Mhm.
backhoes and things like that. And so that was part of their, argument is that it wouldn't be hard for him to get rid of a body.
Mhm.
So basically, the narrative that they told the jury is that they believed that he lured Brad there, that he talked him into his camper, that he stunned him and knocked him down somehow, and then he shot him multiple times and killed him, and then drove him to another location in his camper. I mean, he was easily concealed that way.
Sure.
And then used a backhoe from his business to bury him somewhere. That was
Yeah.
their theory.
Sure.
And again, remember how small this town is and getting a jury together. But
Oh,
at any
man, I
rate,
can't imagine because it's not like I mean, to go to another town, I mean, they're all tiny.
yeah, yeah. So Larry, of course, pleads not guilty. And the argument, the motive was jealousy that,
Mhm.
his ex-wife or, I'm not sure if they were divorced at that point. I think they may have been, had verified that, yes, he claimed that Brad was sleeping with her and yada, yada.
Mhm.
So, that's basically where it was at.
Okay.
The jury deliberated for 2 days and they found him guilty. So guilty to the offense of homicide. They
Wow.
sentenced him to 60 years in prison. So this is the first time in Montana history, two big things. The first time that they've had a successful prosecution without a body. It's
Mhm.
also the first time in Montana that anyone's ever been convicted on the basis of DNA.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, two biggies in this case.
Very interesting, okay.
Yeah. Now, he continues to claim that he is innocent, and then in 1995, he has a cellmate named, let's see, I almost told you the lawyer's name, Greg Carpenter. So Greg Carpenter is his cellmate. Greg's a little bit younger than him. Greg is a rapist, among several other things.
Mm.
And some things have happened in prison. So Larry is quite the charismatic guy. And he's basically convinced the warden that he's a good guy. And the warden put him on an inmate advisory board where you get to have some extra perks. And the other staff at the prison were really mad about it because typically you have to be someone who's basically rehabilitated and just staying out the rest of your term. You have to be someone who has admitted to your crime and written letters and, done the things.
Yeah, yeah.
Larry's done none of those things, and he's only been there for 2 years. The murder happened in 1990. He was convicted and sent to prison in 1993. So this is 1995, and he's already on this inmate advisory board. The warden actually takes him and 2 other inmates out to dinner out of the prison. Like, he's getting all of these protections and extra perks.
Yeah.
Well, because of that decision, as well as a few other things, the warden ends up getting fired.
Mm.
And they get a new warden. And Larry is very unhappy about it.
I bet.
Because he had the old warden pretty snowed.
Mm-hmm.
And was more than willing to, say whatever he needed to be able to do whatever he wanted. So, of course, he and Greg Carpenter, his cellmate, they cook up a plan. They decide that if they can plant a bomb and then be the people who find the bomb, they'll be the heroes at the jail. They wanted to go from zeros to heroes, right?
This has Larry written all over it.
Right.
Did anyone write any letters about the bomb? Just wondering.
Right. So then maybe they get a sentence commutation, or at least they get some special perks. They'd be, the new warden would think they were all that in a big bag of chips. So they build a bomb of sorts.
How do they have stuff to build a bomb in prison?
Good question. It's full of match heads and some wires and an alarm clock and a 9-volt battery.
So maybe it's not really a bomb. It's just supposed to look like a bomb.
Well, and that's what Scott said. He said, I can't imagine that's a true bomb. Maybe they thought it would actually do something. So they take the bomb and they put it above some ceiling tiles in a room adjacent to the warden's office.
Mm.
And the bomb was supposed to explode at 2 p.m. when the prison guards changed shift. But Carpenter, sounds like he was quite the genius, he noticed that one of the ceiling tiles was ajar and kind of panicked and climbed up on some furniture to fix it. And a janitor walking past saw him doing it. So he told authorities. So they go in there to see what the hell he's up to, and they discover a freaking bomb up there.
Or what they think. Who knows?
The hero plot was not to be.
No.
And so, of course, they were both charged, or should have been charged.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was charged, Greg was charged, and found guilty of 5 charges for manufacturing a bomb and planting it. Well, Larry says, hey, now, I don't want federal charges. So what's about I tell you where the body is?
My God. Was he a used car salesman before he went to prison? Because he just really sounds like one.
So he takes them. They actually load this fool up and take him with them on a field trip. And he takes them to a place called Hebgen Lake.
Yeah.
Sound familiar?
It surely does.
Hebgen Lake was a place that our dad fished a lot when we were kids.
Yeah. We've been there many times.
Yeah, Hebgen Lake is not far from West Yellowstone. And they go to Hebgen Lake, and he shows them where he buried the body.
Sorry, I can't stop dropping my rock.
And they indeed dig up Brad's body.
Oh my God.
They said that when they got the body up out of the ground, that he got really pale and shaky. It's like maybe it, shook him at least a little bit. And
You'd think
then,
something would, hopefully. What a
right?
jerk.
So, and then he tells them that he'll also tell them where the murder weapon is. So then they take him to a different campground, and at the base of a certain tree, he tells them to start digging right there, and they find the gun.
Oh my gosh.
So finally, Brad's family at least can bury him.
Right.
And they at least get to have that, which, by God, they deserved. It doesn't change anything, he's still dead, but they at least get to bury him, and they at least get kind of he
Some kind of
finally
closure.
he kind of comes clean. I mean, he doesn't really come clean about the homicide. He just tells them where the bodies are.
I
But
didn't
he
do it, but
never
I know where the body is. Yeah.
he
Mhm.
never really tells them anything else. So the cause of death was determined to be multiple gunshot wounds to the head and upper thoracic region. And so now they at least have that. But, sadly, he also had a son who lost his dad that day too. So you have about
Mhm.
3 kids who have, no longer have a dad.
Yeah.
This stupid shit. So anyway, so that was in 1995. Well, he just continually applies for parole,
Mm,
continually. And he's denied 7 times. And every time he applies again, poor Brad's family gets dragged through the mud yet again. And
mm,
it's so frustrating.
yeah.
But he just keeps doing it. So in 2009, he applies. In 2015, he applies. It just keeps happening. Well, in 2020, he applies. And yet again, Brad's family is like, please do not parole this guy. He's
Yeah.
never even acted like he was sorry. Like,
Right. Like, he could
he's
easily do
shown
this
no
again.
remorse. Yeah, which he really has. Never showed any remorse. But this time they say yes.
Mm,
So in 2020, they actually agreed to parole him.
mm,
And yeah, he's like 72 at the time, I believe, or 73. And he is, so that was in the summer, that was last summer in 2020. And his release date had not been set at that time. And then I'm assuming he's released. In his plan, it looked like he was going to be living with family in Kalispell, Montana.
mm.
And that was the next step.
Wow.
So obviously, Brad's family was pretty devastated over that. And
Yeah.
it is insane to me that he was initially, sentenced to 60 years. Then all the bombing stuff happens that he got nothing for in exchange for turning over the body, which I'm sure the Brad's family was at least happy to have that anyway. But then, by 2020, dude's out, you
Yeah.
know. Now
Ugh.
it's true that he's old. He doesn't have a whole lot of life left in him, I would imagine.
Well, and he's probably on
But
parole, so if he gets into trouble, he'll end up back in anyway.
well, and that was actually the point. That's what the parole board said. Because in 2023, because of the
Mhm.
way Montana's laws work,
Mhm.
he would have been eligible to be released on good behavior with no parole, with no follow-up.
Oh.
So, so they said they felt like releasing him now, where they could keep him on parole for several years to
Mhm.
track him and keep an eye on him, was actually better for the community at large than it
Yeah.
was, or, in general, than it was to keep him for 3 more years and just turn him loose to his own defenses.
For
So
sure. For
that was the
sure.
reasoning behind it, which does make sense, except for that truly, I mean, in my opinion, he just should have stayed in prison for life. This
Well,
was a murder
and
in cold
how
blood.
was he gonna get out for good behavior after, the whole
The bomb, right?
bomb the bomb the prison thing?
Mhm.
Hmm.
That's hard to understand for sure.
Well, it
Well,
seems
and
to me that Larry's
after
gotten away with a lot of bullshit.
after the bombing, he requested to be moved out of state because he said that the prison guards in Montana were abusing and harassing him. And so he actually, after the bombing, not too long after, he was moved to Oregon and served nearly all of that sentence in an Oregon state penitentiary,
Wow.
not in Montana.
Well, dude, you tried to kill him, you dumbass. No
Right.
wonder.
I mean, what were you expecting there, Brad? Yeah.
Mhm. Larry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Lord.
Brad's the
Sorry.
victim.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry, Brad. Yeah, Larry. So that's the case. It's just such a crazy. This poor little town of West Yellowstone was
Mm.
so shaken up by it
Oh, I
because
bet.
everyone knew both of them, and Brad had taught and coached lots of their kids.
Mm.
And Larry, that a lot of them had done business with him lots of times. And
Mhm.
again, this is a tiny little service-oriented town that it was a horrible shakeup. And then, of course, it went on for years and just continued to haunt their town forever. So,
Yeah.
it's just one of those cases that people will just never, ever forget that lived in that area.
Well, it's good that Larry went to Kalispell because that's quite a long ways away. He should probably stay the
Stay
heck out
there.
of West
Mhm.
Yellowstone.
I think so too. So I just shared a few more pictures here if you guys are in the video portion of some of the fun stuff in Yellowstone. West
Mhm.
Yellowstone's a fun little town, but
It is.
at any rate, that is the story. It kills me that this fool was driving clear to Washington to drop
To leave
letters
his
in the
letters.
mail to try to throw people off of the path. I mean, holy shit. And
Yeah.
how cruel that is to poor Renee and the kids
Oh my
to
gosh.
continually hammer. And in an interview, she said, it's hard because people are saying, well, honey, maybe he did, you know, maybe he did really run off. And she's like, no, you don't know our family if you think that's true. That's
Right.
not the case.
But to be treated like you're just the jilted wife,
Right.
instead of a widow of a murdered man. Man,
Yep.
that's terrible.
It really is. And for the kids, because can you imagine the rumors that were flying around their school? And my
Yeah.
God. Yep. Yep, it's a wild one, but, the warden of the prison at the time of the attempted bombing said that Larry was the smartest and most charismatic sociopath he had ever come across.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Sounds about
yeah,
right.
thought that was pretty interesting. Well, yeah, because he never owned up to it. Yes, he shared the location of the bodies to save himself, but he never owned up to it, even
Mm.
though it was all in his face, everyone else's. That's how it went down.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there you have it. That is the
Mm.
1990 murder of Brad Brisbin and of Yellowstone, Montana.
Yikes.
Yeah. So, guys, we are True Crime Paranormal. If you like our work, we would love it if you would like, share, follow, comment, all the goods. This is our second case this week on Tuesday. We'll be back on Wednesday for our MMIW case this week, as well
Mhm.
as at 7 p.m. We will have our case updates, and we do have some. And
Mhm.
then we'll be
On Wednesday.
on Wednesday. Yeah, we have an awesome one for you guys, actually, that we're like super excited about.
Mhm.
And then, of course, Thursday night, we'll be back for the psychic hour. And over the weekend, watch for some pop ups. So there's still lots and lots of good stuff from us this week. So
Mhm.
thank you so much for being here. Take care. This is True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters.
Bye, everybody.